I'd like to call this Wednesday, November 12th, 2025 meeting of the City of Manassas Park Planning Commission to order. The time is 7 p.m. My name is Lester Finkel. Sitting this evening are Michael Carrera, John Evans, and Kevin Petak. First order of business is the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Evans, will you please lead us? Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Do I hear any changes to the agenda this evening? Seeing none, then I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda as is.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Carrera, second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Evans. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next agenda item is the adoption of minutes from our September 10th, 2025 meeting. Commissioner Beckett's isn't here. Commissioner Evans, Commissioner Carrera, did either of you or both of you read or get to know what happened during our meeting, or will either of you or both of you be abstaining from that vote for the meeting minutes?
I will be abstaining from the September 10th meeting.
Okay.
We don't have a quorum.
Yes.
I'm fine moving
I mean, we
forward,
can
but
leave it until the next meeting. I don't want to.
I'll approve it. Doesn't matter. I don't think I have conflict.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just had one edit I provided. Is there any other edits from commissioners? Seeing none, then I will ask for a motion to adopt the meeting minutes for the September 10th, 2025 meeting with the edit I've already provided. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Carrera, second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Petak. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Commissioner Evans abstains. Motion carries 3-1. 3 and with 1 abstention. Next agenda item is time for members of the public. I do not see any members of the public present, so I'll move on. We have 2 items this evening for new business. The first item is a discussion item regarding lot coverage and grading plans. Planning and Zoning Administrator Barry, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Let me pull up the presentation. So just by way of background, the reason why we actually are reviewing this is on May 6th, the governing body tasked the Planning Commission to work with staff to determine what the appropriate lot coverage regulations and driveway coverage along with grading plans that Manassas Park should actually be codified in our zoning ordinance. We don't have lot coverage. We do have driveway restrictions just by width. And I wanted to share with you other jurisdictions in the area, what they do for these type of items, the lot coverage, driveway, and also some grading plan issues. And I'd just like to give a little shout out to Eva Ariaza. She helped me with the presentation. I thought it was very important to kind of do this visually instead of just putting up percentage numbers so you can kind of get an idea. So we did use a plat and try to show you how this would all work and what other regulations do and what that impact would be on a typical lot. And we did focus on the west side since that is, well, the lots are a lot smaller there. They're the ones that come in for the driveway improvements. Ever since I've been, I don't even think we've had a driveway improvement or approval on the east side in Bloom's Crossing. Most people either are expanding them or they're actually putting one in when it isn't there, because there are several homes that do not have driveways on the west side. So, okay, let me begin. So really quickly, this is what Manassas Park does. We have a 20-foot wide requirement. It's really easy for me to approve. We don't do any calculations, and I will tell you how I practice this is somebody is coming in for a driveway approval, and if they don't have a plat, because it's not an addition, I do allow them to use some type of aerial photo and just ensure that it's 20 feet wide, and they can demonstrate where that driveway is going to go. And I do that because plats are expensive. We do not, most jurisdictions in the Northern Virginia area actually require them as part of the land development approval process, as part of the occupancy of the dwelling. One, these are really old lots, but two, Manassas Park doesn't even have that policy. And unfortunately, a few years ago, when you buy a house, you can opt out of the plat requirement now. It used to be mandatory, so to save money on closing costs, I think is what the rationale was. But I would advise everybody, if they're purchasing a new house, to use that money wisely and get a plat. It is very important, especially if you want to know where everything is on your property. But I'm digressing. So that is what we have. It's a 20-foot wide driveway width. Corner lots get more area because they have technically two frontages on two sides of the street, and they're not related to square footages of the front yard. And just to note, this lot is 58.34 feet wide. There are a range of lot widths on the west side, but some are 55, but they range to 60, 65. So this is about a mid-range of 58. There are certainly some larger lots, maybe 80 feet wide, but for the most part, the interior lots are about 60, 65 feet in width. So Prince William County does a percentage or square footage, whichever is greater. So on this one, here's an example. It's 720 square feet, which is larger, so you could have a 27-foot wide driveway in Prince William County. Note that's almost half of the area of the lot, not quite, but that does that. And what this is showing is, when you do get a wide driveway, a lot of times it overlaps or touches the walkway. And because it's contiguous, we have to count that as driveway coverage. But again, that's one of the reasons that that kind of width and square footage doesn't really work for half of the lots in Manassas Park. And the front, and what we found is any front yard coverage is typically just related to the driveway. Now, here's one, and I'm showing you two different ones because on the west end we have there, and Kelvin I don't know when it happened, but clearly there was right-of-way taken from the properties about 5 feet. To widen the street. So if you see this, most are about 25, 26 feet from the front property line. The actual front yard setback is 30 feet. Now what we've done to help homeowners, because when I first came here, everybody wanted to do a second-story addition, but they have to set it back 30 feet because that was the setback. And from a engineering perspective, because the exterior walls are what supports the structural component of the house, it was just really difficult to do. So we did amend the ordinance to allow people to bump up and on the front face of the house, but but no other encroachment unless it was already existing. So they could go on a second story up on the existing footprint of the house. So that's why the house is showing here, but the setback is actually back there. But when it's 30 feet in Prince William County, the setback, then it's 24 feet, which is still 4 feet wider than our driveway requirement. Fairfax County, they do, based on this lot size, they do 30% of the front yard coverage. That's 460 square feet, but it's only 17 feet wide when it's 26 feet. So that's their requirement. You'll notice that it's actually less than what we do allow. Okay. Manassas, they actually, for this lot size, their maximum width is 15 feet for their driveway, but they do allow a 200 square foot turnaround. So you can back in, and this is the maximum. But you know, it's like a little T, so if you're pulling in, you can drive in reverse and then drive out from your driveway, because I know, especially on a busy street, I'm sure that's helpful, but that is their requirement, that they do allow for that. City of Fairfax, they only allow 2 9x18 spaces, so the maximum width would be 18 feet. And then Falls Church, it's only 14 feet in width. So I did already talk about this, what our driveway requirements are. So 20 feet wide is approximately 30% coverage of the front yard. And so I guess that's where we're trying to figure out if we want to retain that width or make it larger. I'm not advocating any kind of reduction to what we already have right now, is 20 feet. So now potentially we could increase the driveway width to 22 or 24 feet, or another option would be to add incremental increases based on the width of the lot. So you could do 30% of the lot width when it's less than 60 feet wide, or 35% if it's between 60 and 65, and so on. That was just a thought. I don't know. I think people want at least some more driveway area coverage, but the 20 feet I think works well for the city. And I didn't know if people were, and what the Planning Commission's desire is for driveway width coverage. Did you have any comments or thoughts on how we should continue to handle this?
Commissioner Petak?
Well, I have a question or two. Now, I assume the 20 feet is at a maximum, is that correct?
Yes, that's the maximum you can go.
Because a lot of
Yes.
driveways are tapered
Yes,
on the east side.
Yes.
Not necessarily on the west side.
yes, I'm sorry, I just assumed, yeah, that it's maximum, of course.
Yeah. What is the reasoning behind increasing the width? Why do people want to increase the width? Is it because they have larger vehicles that they want to park, or they want to store things in the driveway? What's the reasoning?
I think there is instances where people want additional driveway coverage because they have additional vehicles. So another option that we could do is make it they could, if they wanted to increase it beyond, we could do a process whereby they would go before the Planning Commission and governing body. That could be an option for anything, for people who want to have a larger width than what would be required.
Yeah, and more specifically, I guess I was wondering if it's related to the limited parking on the west side of the city, because we've had parking issues historically on the west side of the city, so I was wondering if that's
part of the reasoning behind increasing the driveway width is to resolve some
Well,
of those parking issues.
there is parking, there's still, despite the commercial vehicle ban, there still is on-street overnight. There still are some parking challenges. I think it did improve, but I know that especially if it's in the Mosby 1 and 2, those developments, those townhouse condo developments on the west side, I think they only have 2 spaces per unit, and I know there tends to be overflow into the neighborhood from those.
And would increasing the width help that, or?
Well, it does allow more flexibility for people to have an additional space on their property, or at least wide enough to accommodate 2 vehicles.
Mhm.
But the 20 feet already does. And it is something that, you know, we have had a request to increase the coverage requirement due to existing driveways that are on the property. So we are trying to wrestle with what we should do in this situation, but also allow a bit more flexibility for the homeowners on the west side.
Gotcha.
I don't think 24 feet might be a little more helpful, because then you could probably squeeze maybe 3 cars with a little bit of luck there, but you know, it's literally only 4 feet. I mean, it is almost arbitrary in this case with a few feet or square footage of driveway area.
Gotcha. And then one last question from me. I know you're throwing out there the idea or thought that we could have variable widths depending upon how big the lot is. That's your last 3 bullets here. Is that practical? I know you mentioned on an earlier slide that for simplicity purposes, we just do 20 feet because it's simple.
If you notice, it's the percentage of the lot width. So that's true, but we can usually get I think if we do it that way, we would really need the plat to be specific
Okay.
about the width in order to be, you know, fair.
I'm sorry, did you say would or wouldn't?
Yes, a plat would be required.
Okay.
Because you can measure in the GIS or Google, but it's not 100% accurate, so.
Right, and since most people don't have plats, as you mentioned, that's the one drawback to this approach.
I mean, yes, and again, I do advocate just for a width, it just makes it easier to administer.
Sure. Thank you.
Commissioner Carrera?
Yes, thank you. The question I have is, I'm not in favor of increasing it over 20. 20 is 2 vehicles. When I've campaigned on that sign, gone door to door, I don't see many two vehicle driveways. I just see one and the one behind, and everybody's parked on the street. So the ability is already there for them to increase and widen their driveway and do that, but I don't see many people doing that. I think, to me, at least to me, having 3 vehicles in front of a home, and it overshadows the home, and I think impact value is an issue, and I don't see the desire of that. I haven't even seen that, other than the one, I know there was one resident that had a concern like that, but I'm not in favor of increasing it further. That's my
Okay.
opinion. Thank you.
Commissioner Evans?
I kind of agree with Mr. Carrera on that. I just kind of curious is the number of people that are requesting this. Is there a lot that are making requests, or is it just, you know?
Well,
handful?
it's a handful. I mean, we do get a few that believe it's not wide enough. But well, they can't get the driveway approved unless they do it at 20 feet. But I would say majority are fine with the current width as it is.
Good.
I'm gonna look into maybe a possibility of having an alternative, another remedy, which would be to have an increase in the width through a conditional use permit. I guess that's really the only mechanism we have to do that. We could look to see if maybe the BZA could do any kind of approval in that regard, but I would have to consult with the attorney on that. So I'll look into that just to see if there's any way to assist people, or there's a mechanism, a way to obtain approval, not necessarily get approval, but at least there's a process for them to go through.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So, to do a conditional, so you're saying the ability to exceed the 20?
Yes.
I think most of us are saying we don't
Okay.
want to go
All
above
right.
20. I don't want to accommodate a few people just because
Okay.
whatever. I mean, if I want to paint my house pink, I just can't do that because I want to do it. And the city shouldn't say, oh, you want to do it. There's a few of you who want to paint your house pink, just paint it pink. I mean, I think there's aesthetics for a reason. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's subjective to whatever people think, but I don't know. That's just what I think. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
If the city had a number of, like there was concrete numbers over a period of time that we could actually consider what they were requesting and how much, that would be helpful in the future to figure out if there is a need in the
Mhm.
city to have either a flexibility to allow for, or when, if there would be a flexibility, when to allow that for. So I don't know if, if we, over time, can gather any kind of data that way to assist us to consider, because we don't even know even if 22 or 24 feet would be
Adequate.
better, or even
Right.
something higher, or just not do it at all. We're sort of, without having data over a
Right,
period of time.
and probably people could come in and
Right.
request, I mean, usually what happens is when they come in and Laura, our permit technician, receives the application, she will tell them that that's the maximum, because
Right.
it makes no sense to reject it
Yep.
up front and have them put in the wrong. So yes, collecting data that we just don't have a mechanism to do it.
Yes.
Unless, she's capturing that, but I think.
Because if the
most people-
governing body directed yourself to coordinate with us on it, if there was anything from the governing body that it was looking for us to look into or hear data on, that we could educatedly then come back to and say, yes, we agree, or we don't agree, without having that kind of a construct, it's
Mhm.
difficult to say whether what we've got is not working or it's working, or we don't know because we don't have an alternative. I don't know if that doesn't sound like it resolves anything, but until then, I guess what we have is what we have. Is that,
Sure,
fair to say? Okay.
yes, okay.
And expanding on what Lester's saying, I mean, that's why I probed on you with some of my questions, which is, what is the reason? And I did not necessarily hear in your explanation, Mickey, a strong reason behind it. I guess if I heard some strong reasons from our citizens, then I could be swayed that, okay, increasing the width makes sense, but I haven't necessarily heard a strong reason from what you said.
Right, and I believe there's only a few individuals who are really advocating for this, so you're right, that's correct.
Thank you.
Moving on, lot coverage. So what I wanted to do is show you what we allow, and then kind of go through what other jurisdictions do, and have a discussion on how you would like to proceed. There's two different types of lot coverage restrictions that I've seen in other jurisdictions, but let me just explain. So for us, how we do it is, one of the planning terms is building envelope. So this whole brown area is where you can build your principal structure. And it could be that big. As long as you meet the setbacks, that you can build your principal structure in that area without, without any problem. And it's 55% of the lot. I don't have the square footage on there. But it is a substantial area. Now, most people, and you can see how large it is compared to what the existing house is, and most people don't fill that. But based on our regulations, that's what you could build. So, and I also wanted to add on all the extras that you can do too. So you can do the driveway. You can do a front porch. That's a maximum depth, if you want to call it, width of 8 feet. And you can have a deck. Our ordinance does say that they can actually expand even the front porch, which I didn't put in because it was a bit silly, but I wanted to demonstrate on the deck. You can have a deck that goes all the way to your property line. There's nothing, it says that it can encroach 5 feet. So maybe not on the, on the east side of the city, but the setbacks in R1, which is what the western lots, the original Manassas Park is, their setbacks are 5 feet on the sides. So, and you can encroach 5 feet. So literally the deck could go that far. And decks, you can encroach, so there's always this 25-foot rear yard setback, but you can put accessory structures in there, which decks are considered an accessory structure. So the maximum that they can encroach is 12 feet, so it would be measured 13 feet from the back property line. And then you can have accessory buildings in this 30% of the rear yard. So based on the coverage, you can have, I just kind of demonstrated as these 2 sheds that can fill up, and it's not this area where the deck is, it's this full 25-foot width. So you can see that it's 83% of the lot with all that coverage. Now, I'm not even sure there's a lot in Manassas Park that actually has this amount of coverage, but based on our regulations, they could. And just real quick, I wanted to show you that because of the front setback of the homes on the west side, they're typically, again, this is the 25 to 26 feet from the front property line. This is just demonstrating that there's that little extra of 148 square feet because it's projecting into the front setback. So that calculates to 85%. It's just a little bit more, but that's because the building is closer to the lot line. Oh, geez. Whoops. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. I'm having difficulties. Okay. Sorry, this is very sensitive. Okay, let's get back. Okay. So other jurisdictions. Prince William has a 40% lot coverage for There are 4 zoning districts, so that this is just a representation of what that would be. So it is less than what we would allow. So Fairfax County, they only have a lot coverage specific to the rear 25-foot yard. You can build to the maximum setbacks, but you are limited in that rear yard to accessory structures. You cannot, 30% of that area, that's the maximum you can cover in any type of structures, including swing sets. So they do count that area as coverage, even though, you know, there's really not that much surface area taken up, but that's how they regulate it. And so here's just an example of what you could do there. Now, I didn't put this in, but if you do have a deck that encroaches, you can have it encroach, but the area of your 30% takes out that area where the deck is. So it actually gets a little reduced if your deck encroaches into the rear yard. So it's quite similar to ours, except we only count buildings. We don't count patios. We don't count any kind of impervious surface. We just count just buildings in that 25-foot rear yard. Okay.
I'm sorry, Mickey, you did say that the county counts the patios and stuff, not just the structure?
They do, yes, yes, they do. So,
And is there a reason that we only count buildings if they could have obviously some sort of?
I can't tell you that
Structure.
that's how the zoning ordinance was written when I got here, and I'm not really sure why. I mean, I can tell you that the maximum coverage in the rear yard is really to at least maintain some type of open space in your backyard. That's really the intent of that 30% coverage, maximum coverage requirement. So, you know, you could build out to the maximum area based on the setbacks, but at least in that 25-foot in the rear, you can only take up 30%, which does make sense. You have some green space on your property, not only in the front yard, but in the rear yard.
But we don't have a maximum coverage limitation.
Just building coverage. So it doesn't, so you can, it's sheds or accessory, or she shed, whatever, you want to have art studio, whatever.
So,
That
just
you
to-
can, yes, it's
Sorry.
just buildings.
but just to clarify, you could concrete your whole backyard. in
Correct.
Manassas Park.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. Currently, that's why we're discussing this.
Okay.
Now, interestingly, for Manassas, and I actually kind of like this, so they limit the amount of accessory structures you can have, the square footage of it, based on the area of your principal structure. So what that means is, and we get into this a lot because so you have your main house, but then you can have a garage or sheds or whatever. However, people come in and they want to put in a art studio or a really big garage, which can be almost as large as a house, especially if you have one of the older homes and didn't do any improvements to it. The dimensions are almost the same, just a few feet off. So what they do is they limit it by the coverage of the principal building. So our regulations, they're accessory structures, so they have to be subordinate to the principal structure, but they don't give any parameters, really. So it can't really be taught. Well, There are instances where they're taller. I don't know if you've actually looked at the aerial photos of the west side, but there are some very large secondary structures on several lots on the west side in the city. So I think I do like this only because it provides more guidance to me about the limits and the square footage of accessory structures. So in this instance, you could only have 385 square feet of structures because, and they also include the carport, so for the coverage. So that is a nice limit. Now, that might almost be too restrictive, but I do like the fact that there really is kind of a finite and definitive, like this is your maximum accessory buildings you can have. So this is City of Fairfax. What they do is they also have a accessory structure maximum coverage, and it's 30% of the rear and side setback areas. So you would count the 5 feet on this side and 5 feet on that side and the whole 25-foot area here. And that's the amount of accessory building square footage you can have. And when you do the math, it's 630 square feet. That's their maximum coverage based on the setbacks. Now, you could break that up. It doesn't have to be one, but for illustration purposes, that's what it would allow. And that would include the 25 maximum building coverage. So also in the city of Fairfax, they have a coverage of building coverage and a lot coverage. So here's an example that includes the sheds. We're focusing on building coverage. So it's the main house, the sheds, and to get 25%, you could have an additional 448 square feet of a house by that maximum building coverage limitation. So it's more restrictive than what we have. I mean, 25% compared to, I think it was 55, just the principal building for Manassas Park. And then just moving forward, so, oh, that didn't come out very well, but so they do have a lot coverage requirement as well, and that's for the whole lot, and it includes all impervious surfaces. So that's how they calculate it. I think that would be too, my personal opinion is I think that would be too complex for Manassas Park. Given our current regulations, this just shows you more of the square footages and dimensions of the sheds and whatnot, and dimensions of the addition. In the Falls Church, they have a 25% coverage as well, and then they limit their maximum lot coverage for 35%. So again, just bringing this up, oh, that's 80. So the whole coverage allowed in Manassas Park with accessory structures is 83 to 85%. And that's a significant difference than 25 and 35%. Okay, so lot coverage options. We can retain what we have now, which is 30% of building coverage in the rear yard, which we allow, or we could expand the coverage to include all buildings and impervious surfaces. I guess I do advocate for that. I think the whole lot should not be allowed to be paved. And that does allow a lot of flexibility to the homeowner. And this probably could have gone also under the grading requirements, but we could require all patios and decks and driveways to be at least 2 feet off of the property line, so you don't have, so you're not, you know, up to and against all the property boundaries, because that's why I'm saying it's probably a grading issue, because there's a lot of water runoff, especially when you're right up to your property line. It tends to sheet flow onto your neighbors. So that was one of the other ideas that I saw in an ordinance, which I thought kind of made sense. And one other alternative I thought is we could be more flexible and allow a maximum 50% rear yard coverage of all impervious surfaces. So what that would mean is, let me just go back because it tends to get a bit confusing. So in the zoning world, there's two rear yards. The required rear yard, which is our rear setback, which is 25 feet. But then there's also the actual rear yard, which is from, and we'll just assume this is the house. So the rear yard is anything between your rear principal structure and the rear property line. So that 50% of the rear yard can fluctuate based on how much, how big your house is and how close it is to the lot line. I guess my recommendation, I think it would help is to, let me go back, is to change the 30% maximum coverage requirement that we currently have to include all impervious surfaces.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that, and I do think we should advocate for all accessory structures to be at least 2 feet off the
Yes.
property lines. Okay.
Makes sense. So, Mickey, a
Mhm.
clarifying question or two. The homeowners associations in Manassas Park, they don't govern backyards, do they generally? I'm trying to recall, I'm in Bloom's, and I don't think Bloom's does much with backyards, although I seem to remember we had to get a swing set approved many years ago for our children in the backyard. That's because our backyard wasn't fenced, I believe. But they don't really govern backyards, is that correct?
Well, the answer is you really have to read your governing documents because it depends on your HOA. They can further restrict what zoning allows, but everybody has to follow the zoning requirements.
So John, you think they do?
They do, I know they require
People do submit sheds
some
for
permits
approval.
for sheds and stuff like that.
And fences, I believe. So I think, now, and then how the policy is actually administered through your management company is something else that can cause variation because they might, maybe, I don't know how stringent they are about getting accessory structures in the rear, which they probably can't see, get approval, but again, that's kind of an administrative of the management company.
Gotcha, yeah, I think it would be difficult for them to govern in, as the city, this is more foolproof, so to say, because you have to get approval for
Yes.
things through the city, which is great. Absolute agreement on the 30% coverage, including impervious surfaces and structures, everything. And absolutely agree on the 2 feet away from the rear and side lot lines. On the 50% rear yard, I guess my feeling there is that really depends on the size of the yard.
It absolutely does.
And if you have a really big yard, then I guess 50% doesn't bother me there because practically speaking, how many people are gonna cover 50% of their yard if it's a really big one, although that possibility is there. So I don't like it from that perspective. I think it would be impractical to try and enforce this, because then it becomes size dependent on the backyard.
Yes, it
And I
does.
think that's difficult to
and-
enforce.
You know, your rear yard could be your 25-foot rear yard, your required rear yard anyway, and so this would technically be an increase. It was just a thought process of trying to figure out if we did want any type of rear yard coverage, that maybe an easy formula or something to kind of look at. I do like the simplicity of this first 3 bullets. It just makes it easier. People do have the ability to use most of their yard, and then the regulation is only contained in the back 25.
Mhm.
Everybody in agreement on that?
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Okay, moving along, grading plans. Okay, so we don't have a requirement, if somebody comes in and builds a house or builds an addition, we don't have a requirement to ensure that they are grading the lot properly so that, water flows away from the house, but also more importantly, doesn't really affect your neighbors. Putting any kind of runoff due to the increase in pervious surface on their property. Calvin and I have talked about this for many years, and we do believe we should do something. And what we found was that grading plans in Northern Virginia, they don't kick in until you're disturbing 2,500 square feet of land or greater. And that is based on the Chest Bay ordinance for more control for water quality requirements. And the way that Fairfax does it, they also include a 10-foot wide limits of disturbance area around the portion that's going to be built. So that counts towards your 2,500 square feet. Also, there is a grading plan requirement if you're disturbing more than 18 inches, whether that's digging it or putting in fill. And we have had a lot of people come and especially on the west side, I don't know if you've noticed that some of those houses are on a hill and the front yard is very steep. We've had people come in and put in retaining walls and try to fill in the gaps. And also put in, cut in driveways, especially when they have a steep yard. What I've determined and what I've looked at is that I think they give a few exemptions to retaining walls when it's the 18 inches, but that is a Fairfax County rule where I guess they, for some reason, 1.5 feet, I guess, is where their cutoff is for affecting water flow, especially looking at your neighbor's property. And, one requirement we could also do is, especially if you're building if you tore down the new house or the existing house, took out the foundation, whatever, and you're building a new house, we should require a grading plan. I'm sure you're aware and have seen that when a new house goes up, and this, of course, usually happens on the west side, it is significantly larger than what it replaced. And so they certainly are increasing the impervious surface and causing drainage. So especially if they're going to be doing a new house, they're going to have to get plans anyway. So I think it is important to have somebody do some preliminary grading engineering to ensure that that the lot is actually draining properly, especially when it rains, and that it's graded properly so it drains to where it should, towards the street and not on somebody else's property. And then another requirement is, we have had people come in and just demolish the house but keep the foundation, and then build on that. Or maybe they only tear down a few walls, and they want to use that as their addition. So I think that would be a good regulation as well, because it's kind of, people sometimes do that to get around as well. It's not a new house, so I don't have to do the grading, because grading plans are expensive. And so, people try to ensure that they're under the 2,500 square feet, so they don't have to do the grading plan. You do have to pay somebody to do the plan. So, that is one consideration that we need to look at. Coming up with at least some minimum regulations as to when it's required. These were kind of the top ones. I did want to show what that 2,500 square feet would look like on this lot. It's a pretty significant addition. This is not showing up well on the screen, but there's a 10-foot wide area that I included from the driveway. So I modified this a bit, saying the driveway stopped here. So it includes this 10-foot area all around the house, except for the front, since they don't need that. And that's a 918 square foot addition, and that's just really the building footprint. So it's significant. It's 38 feet from the rear yard. We do get in a lot of additions, but we don't usually get in ones that are this large. So I don't think it will affect most people if we have the 2,500 square foot limit, but I think we do need to have some requirements on new construction and really large additions. Now, we will have to work with our consulting engineers, because I don't really know how grading plans work, and they have to come up with the minimum requirements, so we'll have to work with them to come up with that. I'd really like to explore with them this 18-inch of fill or excavation, and how that would work, and what impact that would have, or requirement, in terms of whether or not this would capture some other activities. So that was what I have found in my research, and just, again, this kind of summarizes what we're looking at. When we do get drainage complaints, and it is a bit, it's hard as staff, because you feel for these, they come in thinking we have regulations, and we really don't have any teeth in our regulations for this runoff. People change the grade, or they put in a large driveway, and there is sheet flow into the neighbor's property. We hear that time, and on several occasions. So this should really be addressed. There is something to be said about it, and this, I've even on site visits I've done, people said, oh well, there's this big house here now, and has affected the drainage on my property, and now he was trying to put in a driveway or fill it in, but he couldn't really do it because the land was so soggy, because the water kept draining to his property. So there are there is rationale to do this.
Is it possible to have a proposal put together that's sort of a construct? Like, what we're hearing is, pieces.
Correct.
Is it possible to take into account the items that you've been talking about that have been concerns over a period of time and put it into actually some type of a construct that we can then see more concretely to?
Yes,
see
I
if it
was
does-
really, yes, I was just focusing on kind of minimums, a
Right.
framework, and then we can,
But then there's the
move
drainage
forward.
part too. that-
Right.
Where there is the drainage part too, that sounds like if it's possibly impacting a neighbor's property,
Well, yes, right.
that would make sense to have as a part of this, I would think.
Correct, no, you're right.
Agree, because the 2-foot requirement under coverage, the 2-foot separation
Yeah.
may not be sufficient if there are
Mhm.
drainage issues.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you raise a good point, that, if there is a complaint after construction, there should be some type of remedy.
Of course, yes.
And regulated and how that's to be done, so
Yep.
that's an excellent point.
So I have one question that could be overarching on a number of these topics. The presentation's entirely silent on pools, backyard pools, for instance.
Well,
Is that,
those are deemed accessory structures.
they're building structures,
Well,
or they're,
you do need a building permit for this, and this, whether it's above ground or in ground,
Mhm.
that would fall under this category, under the 30% coverage. We would count it as an accessory structure. and impervious
Interesting.
surface.
Now and I'm asking this question for the commissioners to ponder. 30% coverage if you have a shed, but then you want a pool, and you want to do a really nice pool that could improve the value of your home. Do we want to consider exceptions, or, I'm just throwing that out there as a thought. I haven't thought about this.
Well, I will say that, again, most homes in Manassas Park really have fairly large rear yards. So even if you put in a pool, it's typically not in the 25-foot rear area. That would be restricted. So just by example, let me just find one that shows the 25-foot rear yard. Doesn't, I think I had the building envelope here. Okay. So, again, this is the full building envelope, but you can put your pool in here. The 25-foot is back here. We don't have, our lots are pretty ample in size based on the dwellings that are on them. So remember, there's this huge area in your backyard that you could put the pool without, without impediment. It's just this rear area where only 30%, or this 25-foot area, only 30% of that can get coverage. So, most lots are standard. I've seen several lots in other jurisdictions where the house is right at the setback line. But I think most of the properties in Blooms have more than 25 feet on their property. So I don't really see that as an issue. I think there might be some, especially corner lots, because they're so far back on the lot, where that may be a concern. But for the most part, I think a majority of the pools aren't going to run into this problem.
Mhm.
Other questions or comments?
No.
Thank you very much. We appreciate
Great,
that.
thank you. Okay.
I'll give you a moment if you want to switch over there. We'll
Yeah.
move over to our the presentation regarding the proposal for the comprehensive plan update.
Great. Well, I just wanted to take a little time. I'm sorry that the consultants couldn't come to the Planning Commission, but we really wanted to save their expertise for the meetings and whatnot that they're going to be handling. So I really want to summarize for the commission. Stantec, the consultant that we chose, I think, they were the highest rated. I just wanted to kind of go through some of the highlights that really excited, if you will, staff about why we chose this company, Stantec. We did enter into a contract with them on October 29th of this year. So their focus was looking at Manassas Park as, a suburban district, but also knowing that we're trying to develop this downtown and trying to balance that framework with our mostly residential city with the redevelopment we're experiencing, not only downtown, more intensification, but even the residential redevelopments that are occurring or could occur in the future. And they're really looking to modernize our plan and tailor that with economic resilience and ensure that most people, that the growth benefits all residents. And the critical questions they really posed was what about housing? How is the city gonna work with options for the current and future residents? And can we enhance the sense of place when we're improving connectivity throughout the city and economic vitality? And they hit on that we are a suburb, and how do we really modernize our city looking into the future? Because again, this is gonna be a 2050 plan. A lot of it is, visioning and what you would like the city to look like. So there are some, aspects that could be aspirational, but hopefully doable. So we're really excited to get this team in here to look at these issues. One thing that we were really happy about was that they really did take a look at our comprehensive plan, and they went out to the city to look at these areas. And they did pick up on our 3 redevelopment districts and how they can at least try to find some synergy between them, connectivity, and how we can really look at these different areas for potential future redevelopment, and how we can look forward in possibly, given use changes, the old industrial area in Connor Center, as well as the Four Corners, trying to look forward, be aspirational. What could be there if it redeveloped, and taking into account pedestrian, the walkability, as well as dealing with the fact that Route 28 runs right through it. So these did capture a lot of the plan and how they're going to, the current plan and how they're going to enhance it. Just real briefly, this is the process that they're going to be taking. They're going to do data collection first and baseline analysis. And one of the things that we really wanted to promote was the community engagement component. We really want to hear from our residents about how they want to see the city in I guess it's going to be 24 years now. And we're really looking to involve school children, try to hit some of these places of worship after the services to get input. And we're trying to brainstorm how we can try to get the most community involvement. There will be, of course, plan development and drafting. They're going to look at the particulars of land use, transportation, and environmental resilience. And then, of course, the final plan review and adoption. So that's really just kind of a summary of what the process is. What they're going to be working on now is next steps. So we did meet with them last week. We're meeting with them with the city manager tomorrow, since Carl hasn't had an opportunity to meet the Stantec team. But they are going to be preparing a detailed work plan, like a Gantt chart. So once we finalize that, I'm going to send that to you, so the commission, so you can be aware of how everything is going to proceed. And then they're going to provide a public engagement plan, how we're going to ensure we have proper and robust community engagement. They are going to handle some of the sessions, or at least have Spanish speakers there during the sessions, and even some focus groups with our Spanish-speaking community. So we're really excited about that. And just note, there will be key interviews, so they will want to speak to the commission at some point in time, so that should at least be in the detailed plan and progress, the work plan, when that's going to happen. Because we do need input from a lot of the different committees we have to get their input as well as just the general public. So that should be a component. And just real quick, we are going to have a dedicated website, and it's going to be pretty user-friendly. It's going to be an online format where it won't just be a text document that you have to read through. It'll be a little more innovative and just not what we have currently in the plan. And we're going to be using ArcGIS story maps to help with, creating maps and looking at a more inviting plan that people can easily use, and it will be online and accessible. So we're really looking forward to that. What I wanted to do was just kind of give you an overview, but was there anything specific that you wanted to make sure we cover, or ask the consultant, so I can make sure incorporate that into our meetings and get those items answered for you?
Since it doesn't seem like there's a meeting specific to meet with the Planning Commission as Stantec is getting going, and is it possible to have some type of a, how can we be involved without necessarily just being interviewed as a part of all this? I mean, we're the keepers of the comprehensive plan, so it would be.
Well, they're still going to have public meetings, so you can
Right.
come to the public meetings.
But at least check-ins with us at some, so I mean, we appreciate the Gantt chart or whatever, to start off with the overall approach, but then will there be injects to the commission so that we have points to be able to check in, take the temperature, understand what's going on, what's happened, where is it, time-wise, what's going on, how can we as the commission be involved without necessarily being involved from a hands-on, but it just seems like we're being going to be interviewed for part of the process, and then maybe get information as we go along, rather than there being specific inject points to check in with them.
Sure.
by
I mean,
us.
I'll make sure that those points are there, but these will be deliverables.
Mhm.
And so we will share that with the commission. And when the plan is being drafted also, I guess I was asking, what specific point were you focusing on?
Well, we're going from what the comprehensive plan is now, which
Mhm.
is, really needs a lot of work.
Yes, it does.
To something that I'm hopeful, and I think the commission is hopeful, that will actually be something we as a commission can use when we're hearing the budget, as we do on an annual basis. We can actually see somewhat
Mhm.
not necessarily line item to line item, but overall outlays where we can see it in the plan itself, that we're actually achieving any amount of what the plan is proposing for the next 25 or 30 years. So it's difficult to, without having a chance to check in with them or see what they're envisioning taking the document as it is and what they're seeing as, because each section is gonna need to be built out. There's no question, and there's a lot of data that's gonna need to
Right.
feed into whether it's the housing study or,
Right.
open space for the city or any kind of piece of that we just don't have the data to, and we're reliant on the city and the Stantec to be able to put together a plan to not only plan for getting the data, but then actually getting it, evaluating it, seeing how that's gonna build out each section. So I don't know if we can, before the plan is actually drafted, if we were doing a section by section for a while, we were going through, is it possible for us to actually hear when they've got different sections?
Right,
And
so.
then maybe we can give feedback on.
Sure. The 3 bullet points on here under the plan development and drafting, these were kind of large sections,
Mhm.
but, and in fact, that was one thing that I'm looking for, that they said that there was gonna be a lot of interaction with not only staff, but the planning commission when they're,
Is
you know,
it
drafting the
possible that they
documents.
can come and do the initial, like, this initial kickoff presentation here? Or I'm not saying all of them need to come, I looked at their bios, but is there like one of them can come and just, so, because I mean, we're hearing you, and then we have questions, and then there's them who are supposed to, and, you know, I think we're missing them.
Sure.
I don't know if that's just a thought.
Yeah, and I have a thought too on the, you know, the Gantt chart sounds like the critical thing they're working on right now. As long as we get a shot at that to see where the touch points are
Yep.
for us and what they're gonna need from us throughout the process, that would be helpful to see on the Gantt chart.
Agreed, and yes, I wanted to share that with you before it's finalized. I was anticipating them actually, you know, having those points with the commission, because that was important to me, and I know we talked about that with them in our negotiations, because I do want you as the body be involved, you know, with this process.
And once they get a game plan in place, is it possible, as Commissioner Carrera was saying, to actually have them come and just
Sure.
give us a chance to at least speak to them and have a chance to go over it with them so that we're comfortable with where they're going with it as well, and we understand where we're gonna be fitting into the process a little bit more than we can see at this moment.
You mean something like similar to a work
Plan,
Plan,
or
yeah.
or
Work.
like
with them for, you know, an hour or something, whatever it takes to bounce off some ideas.
Sure, okay, great.
cool. Good, and that would be, they would have something in hand that at least we could talk to them about.
Yeah, I
Good.
agree.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
And then just informational update, nothing to, okay.
No, nothing to.
Is there any business that you foresee for December? Because
Well,
if not,
if we have the, there were a few things.
Okay.
Hopefully, I'd like to bring, even though you guys don't approve site plans anymore, I would like to bring, show you the B&B Theater site plan. Hopefully, it'll be approved by your next meeting.
Fine.
And, whoops, gosh, I keep flailing all over the place today,
Okay.
excuse me. If Stantec is available, we
Sure.
could have them at the
Okay.
December meeting.
great, I just wanted to make sure if there was.
Yes, and I know your question is because of the, yes.
Because now we have the
vote.
bylaws
Yes,
flexibility, so I wanted to make
correct,
sure if we
yes.
have business, great.
Yes.
If we don't, then I just wanted to get ahead of that with that. That sounds like a plan for the next
Right,
meeting. Good.
that was
Okay.
kinda, and
Good.
I think they were anticipating, and again, all of this was kind of brainstorming,
Sure.
so when we met with them last week, and that's why I'm really kind of relying on the documents that they're gonna be providing us with
And
a
we
lot more
want to see
detail.
something too when it
Yes,
comes to that point,
agreed.
that'd be helpful. Good.
So that's what we're, you know, looking forward to, and certainly gonna share with the commission, but we will be seeing them tomorrow, so
Okay.
hopefully we can get them to come to the December meeting. Now,
month,
were
right,
there like specific things that you wanted to discuss, or?
Well, it would be good to hear what their plan is overall, or
Okay.
we're at the beginning part.
Yes,
But
correct.
we've got the existing plan, we need it upgraded to a
Yes.
point where it's usable for us specifically as the commission, and for the city to know what it is they're proposing, so we can compare it to the plan, and then see where the city wants to go, development-wise from where we are. So I don't wanna speak for everyone else, but I think if they have something more of an approach that we can then have
Okay.
more to think about and actually give some input to if we see anything that we may think is missing or we want to emphasize. I think that would be the point we can do that. Does that make sense
Yes.
to commissioners? Yes. Okay.
Great,
Does that
okay,
make
yes.
sense too? Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Good, thank you. Okay, then with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, can I say one thing?
Oh, yeah, please, go ahead.
Just
Commissioner
one thing I'm
Pereira.
hoping to get us, and talk to the city manager, just hopefully get us shirts that say planning commission, as like a polo shirt, like a short sleeve shirt, and then,
Oh,
you know, something, you know, because I know we volunteer here, and then maybe an ID
Okay.
card that gives us access to this room,
okay,
and then the small conference room, so in the future, and maybe like a lanyard that says Manassas Park. But I mean, over the next month or so, or 2 months.
Yeah, everything except the ID cards are easily done. The ID card's only because I need you to go to the police station, get a picture taken.
Yeah, it says planning commission, yeah.
So,
No
Yeah.
lanyard too.
yeah, I'm sure we can do that, no
Says Manassas
problem.
Park,
Yeah.
nice one.
Once you pick
So
one out,
hopefully in
let
the
me know
next
what you
few
like.
months, and I'll try to work on that with the city manager.
Yeah, I'll have Kelly ping you for sizes and things like
I'll
that.
work with Kelly, and then
Yeah.
we can email it, so we can.
Yep.
Thank you.
sure. And I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving, since we're all
Yes, yes.
not going to see each other until next month. Um,
Thanksgiving.
Yes. Is that good? Okay.
Yep.
Great. With that then, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Carrera, second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Evans. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The time is 8:15.